Going live, gone live, are live. Hello, everybody. This is the Retro Bear, welcoming you once again to another episode of the tNb Gaming Podcast. Firstly, I should say, for those of you who actually are watching us live this evening on YouTube, hello, nice to see you again. We'll get through all the people in the chat. But those of you who do listen to this during the week, I keep forgetting. Not everybody's watching this live at the same time. So apologies if we do go a bit visual and you don't actually quite get the benefit of what we're talking about. So we'll try and be a bit better about that going forward, because there has been one or two comments made about the fact we seem to be forgetting the people who listen to it rather than watch it. I know some people watch it back, some people listen to it back. So yeah, apologies for that anyway. I hope that can spoil your enjoyment of previous episodes. But we're here again, episode number 47. This week, talking about something very, very topical. We don't usually do topical. Well, we do. We do topical. But this week, we're doing something completely relevant and bang up to date. If you've read the description, you'll know exactly what we talk about. It's in the title card. You know exactly what we're talking about. And our special guest has picked the subject this week. So we shall talk about that. We'll also talk about some of the games we've been playing recently. We've got a few of the tNb lads here tonight as well. Just a quick say hello to Rob and Eddie, who aren't with us tonight, but they will be with us in future episodes, of course. That's my notification to say that we have gone live. Let's see who's in the chat this evening. Ian's here from the Poltergeist, but also his own channel, Sam Hainick Gaming. If you've not been across and you're a horror game fan, go across and have a check on his channel. Look forward to this one. Hope so. Hope it's a good episode. 37 Retro, blast processing. Interesting. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. But anyway, good evening to you, sir. Nice to hear you again. Retro Claire is here, as always. Stuart, Generation Pixel. Good evening. Hope you're very well. Susie's here. Susie Shaw. JBTV. Hello. Good to see you again, my friend. Rock and Roller. Trevor. Hi. Nice to see you again, mate. And also Eddie. It's not very well at the moment, but warm wishes to Eddie. Hope you feel better soon, mate. Nice to have you in the chat as well. Okay, so let's launch into the usual stuff that we do. Let's bring in our guest of the week, the man who has chosen this particular subject. He changed his mind halfway through the week, which was okay, because I hadn't done the title card by that point, which was good, because that could have caused quite a few problems, possibly minutes of my life changing back. But I'm very pleased to say, and somebody I wanted to try and get on here and for quite some time, and somebody who's got a very, very important part of history on my channel as well. Let's bring him in. It's a very, very, very good evening to Alex Griffo, Griffo's Retro Gaming.
Hello everyone. You're right there.
Good evening to you, sir. Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I've just mentioned there a bit of history on my channel, weren't you? Because you were the very first strandee on a desert island.
I was, and my microphone was crap that day. Might have to do a redo. But,
you were also the shortest one as well, which is a blessing for most people, because nowadays it's like 3.5 hours. And we got you in less than 2 hours, wasn't it? That was
it was. Yeah.
That was something else, but that was great. And the thing is, if you hadn't done that, we may not have carried on doing it. I know we trolled it on one of our episodes, and I thought I'd roll it out with people. But yeah, it was good that. So the whole series owes you a great deal of gratitude for that.
No, it was a pleasure to be on there, as it is a pleasure to be on this as well.
And thank you very much indeed for coming on. And interesting subject you've chosen this week. So we'll ask you also about the one that you dropped as well, which has been quite interesting. We can do that another time, but we'll have a chat about that as well. Let me bring in the other chaps, because they're all sitting waiting. Let's bring in the sexiest man on YouTube, shall we? He's here again.
I'm already here.
Good evening.
He's taking claim to your crown.
He can jog on. Only here for the night. God.
Yeah. How are you anyway? You all right?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Hoping everyone's well. Nice to see you all again.
And again, I forgot, for people listening, it is Nathan Retro 1 we're talking to. You should know by now if you listen to it, because you know what the sound of his voice is.
Owned by Microsoft.
Owned by Microsoft this week.
Sold my soul.
That's it. Joining us from the Lad Loft, it's all the way from Sheffield. It's Pete Fighter 2. Good evening, Pete.
Good evening, Russ. Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
I'm a tired boy, but I'm all right. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. We should point out that you're speaking slightly differently, because your microphone setup's not quite what it usually is.
Yeah, my headset for some reason is not picking up the microphone, but I'm sure we'll soldier through.
Yeah, it sounds loud and clear, so we're okay on that one as well. A bit of medical advice here for Eddie. Get a hot whiskey, Eddie. That will help you. And there's no helping Iddy. Well, we've known her for quite some time anyway, but there we go. And finally, he's had his tea.
Hey.
He's here. And I'm just waiting for him to put his drink down and swallow the contents of his mouth and rub his hands together. It's a very good evening to Sean at Retro Games Revived.
Evening, everybody. Evening, Alex. How are we doing?
I'm all right, Sean. Are you?
Good. Yes, I am, mate. I am. And I had the pleasure earlier of being in the lad loft. Over to Pete's.
Oh.
Did you?
Yes.
You did?
Ah.
Yes. Paid a
Yeah,
little
this
Sleep on my
Pete.
bed.
He sat on your bed and he farted a few times too.
What? Unbelievable.
It was purely done out of the kindness and goodness of his heart, I suppose, really.
Good news to ask.
He came to drop off this lot. If you can,
Let's just give Pete the screen for a moment. Pete is showing us.
No
Yeah.
way.
so Sean. Well, I say the bag's from Nath, but it was for Sean. So technically, Sean's left it. But yeah,
I
he's,
took quite a few things and all from that, didn't I, Pete?
yeah, but left most of it for me. So
That was. No, sorry, Pete. Yeah.
I was just I've got a massive load of pickups and I've barely paid a penny for them, and it's amazing.
Wow.
He doesn't take any money, does he? He doesn't take any
He
money
won't.
for it.
He won't. I gave him some free Commodore 64 backups. So
An Amiga.
an Amiga, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
buzzing.
for those again who didn't see that, Pete was showing a picture of the Jaguar, Atari Jaguar, which,
And a pile of games as well.
and a pile of games as well.
Yeah.
Have you always wanted a Jaguar, Pete, or is that just something?
Yeah, it's one of the things off my Grail list. Yeah, God knows why. It just piques my interest. I know it's one of not life's great failures, isn't it? But it just piques my interest.
Well, that's the way it is sometimes with these consoles, isn't it? It's the ones that have the most notoriety because they failed are the ones that you want the most, even though that nobody seems to want them. But they're incredibly expensive. Sean just given that away.
Yeah, I know. I couldn't believe it.
10 years time, we come around knocking on the door. I said, Pete, I gave that Jaguar a few years ago. Well, I've been working it out with interest, and you owe me £6,000.
Half the stuff in this room is actually from Sean. So
Yeah.
I used to joke that he was like slowly moving in because he was just fetching all his stuff over.
It's generally known as Pete and Sean's Lad Loft. Pete's got sort of
Second lockup.
Yeah, second lockup.
He doesn't have to pay rent on this one, so
The lad lockup.
The Lad Loft.
The lad look.
Might want to work on that.
Trevor said, "Who's going February 5th?" I presume he's talking about Leeds gaming market. Is he?
Leeds, yeah.
Guys,
I'll be there.
Not me.
no.
Alex, Alex.
hopefully, yeah. Hopefully.
Oh, nice one, Alex.
Okay, so as yourself and Sean may possibly be there as well. That's good. Good evening to Woody Weeble, Duncan. Hi there, mate. Hope you're okay. Steve at Cooper's World's here as well. Good to see you.
Steve.
Good to see you about.
Right,
yes.
When it Leeds we first met, Alex, or was it Doncaster?
Technically Leeds, yeah.
Well, it Leeds, yeah.
Yeah. I commented on one of your videos when I first started watching you real early on. I said I saw you at Doncaster. I'd literally watched your video. And I saw you at Doncaster. But
Yeah.
I didn't approach you. But yeah,
Just starstruck, wasn't
yes.
He's worried about him giving him a Jaguar and asking for the money in 10 years' time. We always start off the tNb chat with a bit of a whiz round of what we've been playing. Not since we last spoke, because some people haven't been on the panel or before or whatever. So, Alex, if you'd like to kick us off this week, is there anything you've been playing recently that you'd like to talk about and share your experiences with, or tell people not to bothering with a game because it's a complete load of rubbish?
Yeah, two great games I'm playing at the moment. One on the Switch, one on the 3DS. And the Switch one is Immortals Phoenix Rising, which I got really cheap off Game Collection. But what a game. Really, really good. Really enjoying it. I like the Greek myth in there and the art style of Breath of the Wild. It's really good game if any of you have played it.
Is it like an open world game, is it all?
kinda. Yeah.
I've played it.
It's quite barren in terms of there's not much to do other than the main story, but yeah, it's a good game. Puzzles involved. I saw a little look there from Nath. I don't think he's a big fan.
I think it's just a Breath of the Wild wannabe, so I don't really want to play it. I'm like, meh.
I have played it. I've got it on the PS5, and I don't rate it. I didn't like it at all, but I do plan on going back to it.
Oh well, that shot me down, hasn't it? So the next game is Zelda.
Wow. Now we're talking.
Which one we got here? Zelda. Focus.
Between Worlds.
Zelda Between Worlds. Yeah.
Link Between Worlds, and pleasantly surprised by that. So it's a little bit different to Link of the Past. It's kind of like a love letter, I'd say, to that. But you've got a gimmick of where you are painting, and you can go between walls, things like that, and discover new areas, and like it helps you solve the puzzles and things like that. And I'm absolutely, I'm loving it. Absolutely loving it. A lot of people don't like the fact that you can rent the items like the hook shot and boomerang and things like that, where previously you'd have to get... What was that? Was that Game Zone Bedroom?
Well, he is here. He's just said hello. So, he's arrived.
Was the noise audible then? That was my cat.
It was slightly, but that's fine, because we've had all sorts of animals on this program over the last couple of years.
So a lot of people don't like the renting thing, but I did. I quite like it because it means that you can get everything early on, and then you can do the game how you want in the order that you want. And whilst the world's still the same as Link to the Past, a few things are different, and the dungeons are different. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. I don't know if anyone else really likes the game.
Yeah, it's absolutely good. It's It's probably one of my top Zelda games, maybe top 3. It's really surprised me how good it was. I remember I was on holiday in Skegness, of all places, when I was playing that, and it really helped to distract me from the fact that I was in Skegness.
Well, it's not a bad thing, I suppose, really, is it?
No.
Stuart, Generation Pixel said Immortals is a great little game. Eddie said it sounds better than Breath of the Wild already. We said hello to Game Zone Birdroom is with us. Longview and Friends is also here as well. Griffo in the house. Trev recommend the Seco Shoot 'em Up collection going cheap on Mexico Amazon, £130 on UK Amazon. I've never even heard of that one.
No.
What system is that on? Is that
the Switch collection? Might be good.
The Switch.
It's a Switch game. Switch. Daily Retro's here. Hi, Dale. Nice to see you, mate. Good to see you on the chat tonight. It's going through. Yep. Okay, that's called up to date with all those. Right. So thanks for that, Alex. Nath, anything you'd like to share with us at all?
Oh well. Games I played, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you can share other stuff if you want. It's a platform.
I'll go through games. I was just trying to pull them out, but I'm in the Glacier Mint at the moment, so I'll keep that for time. What have I played? I've been playing a game I got for Christmas. I've actually completed quite a few, but I'm not going to go through all of those. I'll go through some of them. I've finished both the Ori games on the Switch. So there's Blind Forest and Will o' the Wisps, which are brilliant games. I really, really enjoyed those, although they were frustrating as hell as times. They're Metroidvania style games. And I'd say the background style of it, although it's in kind of a forest, it kind of has a little bit of kind of an odd world feel, I think, from kind of the creatures that are about. So yeah, I really enjoyed playing those, except maybe the kind of runaway sequences, which you have to just run as fast as you can and get out the area and use various kind of mechanics to do so. Those were just blinking hard. But yeah, very good games. I was really impressed with those. Streets of Rage on the Master System. I got that in my last pickups video. I made a video. So And yeah, that was in there, and I played that to completion, which is fantastic because I haven't played that game in probably about 20 years, I would say. So
you finished it now, because you did tell us that you were about to finish it, and then you accidentally touched the console and the game froze.
Yeah, the first time around, I tried to use the special, and on the Master System, you press the pause button and then the jump or kick button. I don't know what it is. And it fires a special, like the police car drives in, fires a rocket launcher. But that I accidentally touched the cartridge, and that just knackered the game. So I had to start again. But I started again and played it through to completion. I only used that thing once. So yeah, really, really glad to play that one again, because it's been a long time since I played that. Like I say, about 20 years. But definitely a very good game. And yeah, for all those, I've been playing this today. So finish your drinks. It's Hey Pikmin.
Yeah, I'll just give you
finish your drinks. Yeah, there you go.
Hey Pikmin on the 3DS.
Which is a little bit like Pikmin, before anyone asks. Yeah.
That surprises me.
If we're on a 3D kind of console, it's kind of 2D, but it has platform levels, and you have to kind of think about how to get to the higher platforms and areas like that. And it's split between the kind of two screens on the 3DS. So the bottom screen, which is your active kind of screen, and then the top screen, which is the video, but you can kind of move up and down kind of accordingly with the landscape. But yeah, very, very fun game. I'm not too far from completing that one now, so I can go into my 52, hopefully 52 game challenge completion for the year.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, that's most of them. I'm not going to go through everything, but that's probably what I played most recently since we last done one of these.
Lovely. Thank you for that, Nath. Dale's feeding his little one. I hope he's not breastfeeding him, otherwise that would be quite interesting. Ollie, 8-bit boy here. Good evening to you. James, It's Much More. He's here as well. Hi, James.
Feeding him aha.
Hey.
Is he feeding him aha? So he's just forced listening tape on me over and over and over again.
Yeah, possibly. That would warp anybody.
Right. That's not right.
Once he's bad enough, I suppose. Long viewing friends asked a question about 60-bit console. We'll get to that shortly. So if anybody's got any question when we get onto that, we'll speak about that. So I won't touch on that for the moment. Retro Chef's here. Hi, Lee. Good to see you. James says, Pikmin, I remember going to the party VIP launch of the GameCube, and there were women dressed up in Pikmin outfits.
Cool, I'd hit that.
Yeah, so that's Nave's fantasy, that is. Getting a little line of them following you about.
Oh, yeah. Send them out on little missions down the shop.
And you said you weren't going to confess anything a few moments ago, but there we go.
Oh, I wish I could have been there. That's all I'm saying.
That's it. Right, Sean, have you been playing anything you want to recommend or tell people to avoid recently?
Not really, no. There's no point me talking about my usual game, because I dare say we'll come to that soon.
What's that? What could that be?
3 letters, Nate. 3 letters. But I've had every intention of playing 2 games. I downloaded them, but I just haven't got around to them. Beyond Two Souls, which I have played through before. It's a brilliant game. It's like an interactive movie kind of game. And some kind of point and click hidden object puzzle type game, which again I haven't got around to playing any of them yet. So it does indeed, Martin. It does.
Yeah. Martin's just asked a question about Sean's game going well with chips, which if you're a regular viewer, you'll know what we're talking about.
Of course you do. So no, I haven't. I did fire up my arcade cabinet today.
Lovely.
As you lads know. So I had a little go on a shooter. I couldn't tell you the name of what it was. I was just scrolling down and having a quick look at some games. I had a quick go on Bomb Jack. So Eddie, I'm coming for your high score. Be warned.
This goes back a couple of years, doesn't it? To arcade we went to. Yeah. So, yeah. If you haven't seen Sean's arcade cabinet, go across to his channel and have a look on the construction of it over there. It's really, really, really fascinating, especially if you're interested in doing it yourself. Sean's got some really good ideas and some tips, and it's a lot easier than it looks. It's taking an awful lot less time to put together than David Birdsall did, anyway. That's for sure. I think he started that just as the arcades were dying out, and sort of managed to finish it last year sometime. But it's a very good effort on it. Susie loves Bomb Jack, and Bomb Jack Challenge is back on.
Oh yes,
Bring your tear to Eddie's eye. Although that might be to do with the fact he's not very well at the moment. I don't know. Pete, anything you want to share with us? This for games recommendations or avoidances?
Well, it feels like such a long time since I've been on. I've only missed like 2 podcasts, but it feels like ages. But we've had the 52 game challenge in full swing, so I've done a few games because everyone seems to be going mad for that at the minute. It's it's on average it's like 13 games a quarter, and I think Mark's already on about 20. So I've done like 7, but I'll try and keep a sort of abridged version of that. I was playing, actually, I picked it up on a whim. I was playing Biomutant on the PS4, and I ended up really loving it. It's like a sort of open world, sort of almost a little bit like Fable, a little bit like Horizon Zero Dawn, but you're like a little sort of cat character thing that sort of the humanity's died out and animals have mutated and stuff, and you sort of traversing the ruins of civilization and things, and you've got to save the world from these things that are literally eating the tree of life. And no, it really, really captivated me. And it was the first time in a long time when I've been at work, and all I've been thinking at work is, I can't wait to get home to play that game. It's the first time in a while that's kind of happened to me. So yeah, super enjoyed playing through that. And apart from that, really, and Guardians of the Galaxies, it was good, but it was like a sort of mindless shooting game. I've been just smashing my Evercade to pieces as usual.
Not literally, I hope. You're
not literally. Well,
yeah, that's right.
I've got some to spare, so it's fine. But yeah, I played through an old Mega Drive game on there called Cosmic Spacehead, which I had no idea. I'd owned this on the Mega Drive for at least 10 years, and my wife actually owned the very copy that I have since she was a kid. So, but neither of us were actually aware that it was a point-and-click adventure game. We both thought it was a 2D platformer, but it's got 2D platform sections in, but it's got like point-and-click sections in between.
Yeah.
And it was really good. I enjoyed it. It was very simplistic, really easy platform sections, and really sort of simple point-and-click. Sort of like it's not dialogue heavy. It doesn't really take a lot of brain power to do it. The only real thinking is there's these teleporters that you have to go through, and each one gives you like it's sort of like as if you're Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. It sort of mutates you in a different way whenever you go through these teleporters for a while. And it doesn't really explain this to you. It's just you'll go through one, and all of a sudden there'll be 2 of you because you've been cloned, and then the clone disappears after a bit, or there's one where you'll be flashing for some reason. It doesn't really tell you why, but then you go into a bit where you can't see because it's too dark, and you realize you're emitting light. But it's always like convenient that there's always a puzzle nearby that you need to use these for. Like the clone thing, there's like a puzzle where there's 2 switches you need to press at the same time and stuff like that. But yeah, super easy game, but I enjoyed it. Played an arcade game called Alligator Hunt, which is a little bit like sort of, I can't remember what game Eddie said it was like, but to me it reminded me of sort of a Space Harrier game, but you're not as mobile when you're like in Space Harrier as your character will follow your crosshair about. You have to you're moving your crosshair as your character's stationary, and then you have to press a button to move towards your crosshair and stuff to dodge bullets and things. It's a little bit like the terrain sections in Lilac Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I enjoyed that. It's got a really cool soundtrack. It's like sort of a Joe Satriani kind of surf rock soundtrack. It's very 90s, but so the stuff going on in the background is like there's like big like walkers walking, like mech walkers walking around as if it's like War of the Worlds and stuff like that. And it's just it's really fun to look at. It's not very hard. I think for an arcade game, I finished it in 15 credits, I think it was, which is really good for me because I'm not very good at games.
What's that in old money then? Because it was 50p a go or something like that. How many credits do you get?
Like that. It's like early 90s, so it will be like 20, 50p a go. So
yeah.
I mean, if it's 15, it's what, £7.50, £7.50 tops. So I think I'd have been happy with that.
Yeah.
Games.
I think the only game I've ever done better on the arcade is Buster Move 2, which I've done in 2 credits.
Wow.
But yeah, I did that, and the last game I finished was also on the Evercade on the Indie Games collection. It's called Alien Cat 2, and I want to talk about this. Wild Guns, Eddie's just said it. Sorry. Yeah, I want to talk about Alien Cat 2 because I just thought it was really great. It's an indie game on the Mega Drive that came out, when was it? 2020, so it's obviously not that far off. I know you don't want this to be too visual, but I have actually got like a visual thing because it's easier to show than explain it. But like you sort of, it's not going to pick it up, is it?
No.
There you go.
Yeah.
You sort of like you've got your character on there, but there's more than one of you, if you can see, and they move at the same time.
Oh, there's a Zelda puzzle thing like that.
Yeah. And your goal is basically you've got to get through the levels and pick up all the keys, and that opens a portal, and you just get out and you build the next part of your spaceship. But like as you can see, like all your characters are moving at the same time. There's landmines, there's spikes, and there's enemies walking around on some levels as well. And it's not like super difficult, but you have to like really think about boxing in certain ones of your characters so they can't move anywhere while you can move the other ones about and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. I got it on the Evercade, but it's out on the Mega Drive. I believe it's out on the Dreamcast as well, and also the PC. If anyone gets the opportunity to play it, I think they really should because it's just a lot of fun. Okay. And yeah, that's where I'm at. I've also been playing Alan Wake, but I just can't really get into it, and Submarine Mara on the Switch, which is like a sort of cross between Wind Waker and Stardew Valley, but not as good as either of them. So I don't know. We'll see if I carry on with that.
Okay, yeah, fairly busy as always on the game front. Eddie said he's completed 8 games this month already.
You need to put your mic down, Ross.
For those listening to this, Retro Bear decided to put his microphone on top of his
Yes, I know. It's not easy doing this job, you know. It's not easy doing this job. Anyway, I'll start again. Eddie said he's beaten 8 games this month. He's beaten. Good evening to Red 7. I've had a look at his channel before. Good to see you here. Nice to see you pop along. James It's Much More says Bomb Jack on the Amstrad is an awesome game. Stuart says the Spectrum port is the best one on the home version.
Good.
Yeah, not the Commodore 64 version, though, certainly.
I don't know. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
The game's all right. I just don't like the conversion. I don't get it like everybody else does. It's just I think it's a very ordinary game. But that's just me. Give84 is here. Good evening, Gordon. Steve's playing SMT5.
What's that? Super Mario.
Transport 5. I don't know. Can't think of anything else there. James is here. Yeah, could be Super Mutant Turtles 5. Yes, yeah. James is here from Retro and Import Gamer UK. Don't think he's played a bad version of Bomb Jack. Yeah, I don't know. If you've not come across James's channel, do go across and have a look. Some fantastic games collection. Retro and Import Gamer, if you're all listening. Retro and Import Gamer UK. Go across and check his channel. Like really, really good stuff on there. If anyone has experienced a PlayStation security recapture recently, it's just like that. Is that your
that's the Alien Cat 2 thing? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
When you're trying to sign in on the yearly recap thing, you've got these little maze. You know, like when you get the recapture, it's like press every button where there's traffic lights or something.
Yeah,
and you've got all these mazes with a mouse and some cheese, and you've got to click the one where the mouse can't get to the cheese, and you have to do it 20 times before you sign in. And it's crazy.
That's a new game.
Yeah, couple of people. Yeah, Shin Megami Tensei 5. Steve's mentioned that as well. Nice mention as well. Mr. Tapman is here, up the Dale. Yeah, right up the Dale. And the other Dale says, my early onset dementia. After all that game rebuilding stress. Haven't you got a baby to feed, Dale? And it's after bedtime.
Your time will
honestly.
come.
Well, yes, yes, it happens to us all. You know, I've got at least 15 years on him. You know what I mean? When he takes over doing this in 15 years' time, I'll be there. Remember 15 years ago?
They'll wheel you in.
They'll wheel me in. Yeah. That's it. Back from the home for the terminally gamed, I think it is. I should have. I've been playing Master System stuff this week, which has been lovely. I don't usually. So I've been playing much, but no, last night in order to keep myself awake, in order to watch the NFL playoffs, I had about a 3-hour session on the Master System last night, which was great. Playing Chase HQ and New Zealand Story and Tom and Jerry. Yes, Tom and Jerry. I sit here and slug it off, and I've slugged it off recently, and I sat there and played it, and guess what? It's still a terrible game.
I played that yesterday, actually. I forgot, and yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, there you go. Finally, somebody can
understand.
Yeah. Hi, Seb, all the way from Canada. Hope you watch this afternoon, my friend. Yeah, I played the first level. I thought this is dead easy, and then played another level. I thought it's just not very good. Just not a very good game. I didn't put it on for 10 minutes and leave it. I had a real bash at it, and I played World Cup Italia for some reason, which actually is quite a fun little football game.
Wait, is that the one where if you do a sliding challenge, you go from real little to massive on the floor?
I think it is. Yeah, it's a 7-a-side game as well. It's the conversion of the old Mega Drive World Cup, Sega World Cup Soccer that came out years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
And it's not bad. It's not great, but it was quite entertaining about half there. And I ended up playing World Class Leaderboard for about an hour and a half, which is incredibly sad because I played that years ago on the Commodore 64, and I did it on the Amiga as well. I really enjoyed it, and it's a really, really good version of it on the Master System. And when I got the copy out of the pile, I didn't realise that years ago I paid 99p for it in Game Station. So it was boxed with the manual and the hang tab and everything for 99p. I couldn't believe it. I thought I forgot to bought that.
I'm guessing that'll be the same as the Game Gear version because I had the Game Gear one, and it was really good. There's like 4 courses. You got St Andrews and a couple of others as well. But it's got this because when I played the Amiga version, it had like proper crowd sound effects, and they were quite good. They're exactly the same on the Master System, and there's some speech in there as well, which really surprised me. I hit the ball into a bunker at one point. He said his voice came over the television. It said something along, "Oh no, that's gone straight into the bunker and buried itself." I was like, "What?" That wasn't even on the Amiga version, So I was absolutely stunned. Because if you do a long putt as well, chip it in off from the fairway onto the green, if it goes in the hole and it's over a certain length in distance, you get a really big crowd cheer. Otherwise, it's just a little round of applause. But the big crowd cheer comes with exactly the same sound effect they use on the Amiga. So I was amazed by that, and I got stuck playing that. So I didn't play 3 or 4 of the games I wanted to get to. But I shall work my way through those anyway. But yes, I've been playing games. That's quite good, though. not often I can say that. Raz is here. Hello, Raz. Raz
is here. Italian 90 brings back some memories. Yes, I suppose it would do. It's happened.
Not good ones, but
it's happened. Not good ones. Yeah. Talk about the players for us. Are the Chiefs going to win tonight? I don't think they will. I think the smart money at the moment is on Buffalo. After what happened last night, put your money on the upsets tonight. That'll appeal to about 3 people who listen to this at the moment. Generation Picture said nothing sad about World Class Leaderboard. Ollie says 99p. Yeah, 99p from Game Station, probably about 10, 12 years ago. So that was a good one. World Class Leaderboards. Maybe by Commodore 64 back in the day to playing the Commodore 64. Yeah, that's how I started playing it.
Commodore.
Yeah, that's how I got into playing golf games as well. And Longview and Friends European Club at Soccer, when you could always score from the corner of the box.
Belting game.
I've got that. I picked that up recently. It's down the other end of my pile. I've started from the far end and worked my way backwards now. So there we go. Right, so that's what we've been playing recently. Hope you found some interest there. And we now move on to this week's subject of the week. This week's hot topic. And it's the subject chosen by our guest. Now, Alex, initially we were going to talk about something else, weren't we?
Yes.
Yes. What were we going to be talking about?
Refresh my memory.
I can't remember. I don't know. We were going to be doing a completely different subject, and then halfway through the week, Alex decided, "No, I'd rather do this one." But we can understand why, because we are we're going to be discussing something which is very much in the gaming news at the moment, but also something that probably we've all lived through at various stages in our lives, no matter how old we are. Whether like me, you're getting so old that you forget to put your microphone on when you're talking, or whether you're the age of everybody else sitting out there who's a lot younger. We're all going to experience this at some point in time where we've got systems that not necessarily are at war with each other, but you tend to favour one over the other. We've all got our own favourites. If you can go back in time through a period of history and say, yeah, I had that machine back then, and so and so that machine, but my machine was better. It's the console wars, or if you talk about the older days, which me and Sean will probably talk about the computer wars as well. Alex, why did you want to discuss this for this week's episode?
Just to go back to what the previous subject was, I've remembered. It was digital against physical, because I was going to do that because my opinion of it has changed over time. But then Microsoft announced that they were buying Activision, and the internet and YouTube just exploded, didn't it? And I thought, well, it's so topical at the moment, and I'm sure with the mix of people within the tNb, we'd probably get a good conversation out of it. So
that's a very brave. It's a very brave decision to make that, because I'm not entirely sure you'd be right on that count. Considering who we got here tonight, yeah, we might be stretching that a little bit. But what was your first experience then of you say console wars? I mean, when did you in your gaming life sort of realise that there's a school of thought on this, that it's the old playground discussions, mine's better than yours?
It was definitely the 16-bit era for me. I'm just like, the microcomputers was a bit before my time, unfortunately, but not many people had the NES, the Master System versus NES sort of thing. It was definitely Mega Drive against SNES. And like, the more I thought about it as well, the more I think back then people didn't have both systems, where nowadays you'll find that people buy both an Xbox and PlayStation, and probably a Switch as well, And there was always in one camp. It was either Sega or Nintendo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Same with the handhelds as well. It was Game Gear or, well, to a certain degree.
Yeah, because the Mega Drive came out first. It was there before everything else. The Super Nintendo came on the market, and I remember thinking at the time, because we've discussed this so many times over the years, that there was nobody I knew had an NES. So Master System was very much, those people who had a console had a Master System. Nobody had an NES I knew. And then when the Mega Drive came out, all those people upgraded to Mega Drives, got rid of the NES Master Systems, started playing on Mega Drives, and then people started buying the Super Nintendos. And like you, I knew a few people had both, which was really interesting, because to have one was a special thing, but to have both at the same time was pretty much enough. I'd feel about 3 or 4 people had both, or they got one, and as soon as the Super Nintendo came out, they got rid of the Mega Drive and moved on to that one. But I played on the Mega Drive. Although I played on both. I always liked the Mega Drive, so I always preferred Sega. So that was where I sort of sat originally. But my first experience of that sort of competition, and probably Sean will go with this one. This one was going back to the computer. You said you missed that time out, but when I was growing up, it was Commodore or Spectrum.
Spectrum, yeah.
Or Amiga or ST. That's how I first got into it. But was that the same for you, Sean?
Yeah, definitely. It was more. My first experience really was the Commodore versus Spectrum, and even Electron to a certain extent. Can never really remember Amstrad being a part of the big console or computer war back then, but definitely we Commodore and Spectrum, there were a bit of rivalry. But I would say that the bigger rivalry I experienced were the, like you said, Amiga versus ST. And I stuck with Commodore. I were in Commodore Amiga camp. But yeah, and even to Sega versus Nintendo. Again, I've never really looked at it as a console war because, like you said, Russ, I never knew anybody with a NES, so I didn't really know anything about a NES. But obviously, I'd heard a lot Sega versus Nintendo, and yeah, I took Sega's side, and I've done pretty much to this day, really.
PlayStation fan. Whoa.
Yeah, you could say I'm now a Sony fanboy. I don't like that. I don't like that word, to be honest, fanboy. But I've had PlayStation consoles over Xbox. It's not because I don't like Xbox or anything, and to an extent, I've never really looked on Xbox and Sony, a PlayStation as a console war as such. But yeah, I just always favoured PlayStation. Kind of what I knew, the next system come out. Like, well, I was happy with that, so I'll stick to that. But yeah,
Okay.
My experience.
Coming to the lads in a second. Generation Pixel said Microsoft buying more studios to mothball. We'll get to that shortly. Martin, that UK gamer, says Mega Drive over Super Nintendo any day. Eddie says the only console wars I know these days between the people that say Master System or Master System.
Yeah, Master. Master.
Stuart,
Master, is it? Master System.
Master System.
Master.
There's no break in between. Yeah, there's no R in it, apart from at the end.
You're greatly outnumbered here, Nath.
Always outnumbered, never outgunned.
Feel like Northern Pride, Nath. You say Master System.
Oh,
We all know you're in the north.
you're all wrong. You're all wrong.
I thought Northern Pride was something completely different. Now you've just confused me there. Stuart says Evercade versus Amico. Well, that's very much a phony war, I think, at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the winner of that is obviously that there is Evercades actually out.
Yeah, although
Better.
They're all in my room, but they're out.
I'm pretty sure Tommy Tallarico thinks he's already won that one.
Evercade can't clean your feet. Just saying.
Yeah.
Pixel Plug says Spectrum over Amstrad and Commodore. Stuart agrees with him. So, two people who were wrong in the chat. I was the other way around. All my friends had an NES, and I only knew one kid with a Master System. That's from Longview and Friends. Susie says we had. Shut up. Susie said we had both an Amstrad and a Spectrum. My dad found him in a skip. Ah, there we go.
Well, that must run in the family because that's where my Chinese Mega Drive came from. Well, it wasn't in a skip, but it was waiting to go to one. And Susie found that for me outside in the hallway.
I've just seen another comment from Susie.
Yeah, my dad was a right skip right back in the day.
Yes. I call him a womble because he just goes out and finds stuff. He doesn't do it so much now, but he used to come home with just bags full of crap they'd found. And we were walking towards the bus stop once when we first got together, and we passed. There was a wall, and there was 3 identical DVD players on the wall, which obviously someone had nicked. And yeah, we went back and mentioned it, and he's like, "Why don't you get them? We don't need 3 DVD players."
I was really hoping, Pete, you were going to say you and Susie were walking down the road and say, "Oh, skip," and you both just jumped in it.
No, I'm not going to lie. Whenever I do see a skip, I do have a quick look, but it's usually a rubble and stuff.
You never know, do you?
There was one with a big flat screen TV in the other day, but I thought, no, that's never going to work.
No.
You mentioned Womble there. I just want to flip message to Sean there because Sean showed a game in one of his recent videos. You picked up that Wombles game, didn't you, Sean?
Yeah, alternative software.
And I mentioned commenting on the video that it was sort of recycled from other games. Yeah. I was joking, wasn't you? Because you said in your video, you said, "Oh, it seems to be a remake of some older games or something like that."
Yeah. Straight over me.
I thought I'd watch it. I thought he didn't get it. Martin says, what about people who say Sega correctly?
Sega. Yeah, that's correct. Sega.
Sega.
Sega's correct.
It's Sega.
That's how the Australians say it.
Sean, every time you boot up the Mega Drive, what does it say?
Yeah, every time you play Sonic.
I hear Sega.
Somebody else said Sega the other day, and I was like,
There's only
they've been watching Sean. I couldn't remember who it was, though. I will find
Australians
out.
call it Sega. I listen to a lot of Australian podcasts for no reason, really. And they always say Sega. It's weird.
Retro Red Steve does as well. I think he's the only one that could back me up.
I think it started with Steve, didn't it? I'm pretty sure it did. Trevor says, did you know about the war between Nintendo and Codemasters? Now, I think that was to do with the security on the cartridge, wasn't it? They managed to find
was a Game Genie, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that went to court and everything as well in America.
They weren't actually allowed to use the boot up the cartridges, were they, on the NES? So they had to make their own cartridges, which slotted into something else or something like that. I think you had to slot in a normal NES cartridge as well as their game. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't around for the 8-bit systems, but that's from what I've read and
All going
vaguely
to fall on
remember.
my head, but yeah.
That's the one.
Hang on,
One for bird, so there you go.
Nath is showing us the Treasure Island. Oh, the Fantastic Adventures of Dizzy.
Yeah,
Game Genie.
for Dave. So it's kind of like the old cheat cartridge, but it's actually a game. You have to plug an actual NES game in to plug into that and then get the Dizzy game to work. So it piggybacks it.
Again, unless you're around the time, unless you're around the time, you would completely sort of bypass that, really.
Dislodged to.
Yeah, just be careful. If there's a crash. You know what it is. Dale says, console wars as an adult probably means you just can't afford to collect it for both sides. That being said, I'm a Mega Drive kid, but I've been really tempted to get a Super Nintendo, but game price is high for it. Well, that's the second-hand value, isn't it, really? It's one of those. Brad says Xbox and PlayStation have their thing. Nintendo always stays on its side, which is the way I like it. Is he talking about games? I suppose. What else is he saying here? Commodore was so much better than Sinclair back in the day. We just felt bad for people with the Sinclair. Well, we do the same with people with Amstrads. You know, we offered them all sorts of support and hot drinks and things like that, but they just never came around. Have you seen Renegade on the Commodore 64? Says 37 Retro. Yeah, I don't think it looks that good to be. I don't think it's a particularly good-looking game, that one. Can a moderator please time out Raz? Scott Scott's here saying the zombie, and he says, Raz, you poor disillusioned soul. The Spectrum was and still is amazing.
It is.
Well said, Renegade on the 128 Spectrum is an amazing game. It is a very, very good game on the Spectrum, that one. Ian Samhain Gaming says, anybody remember the war between the ET and Phil? I think it was a draw, wasn't it? Because they filled the hole and they dug the hole.
They dug it back up, didn't they?
ET eventually won, I think.
It was a time capsule. It was just not very well.
A time capsule.
Ross is here, and also Chris E. Zelda Top is here as well. Longview friend says they made 2 copies of that Dizzy game. There's a black cartridge version as well.
Yeah, but I don't have that one, and that wasn't topical.
AD.
Edsel will know, won't he?
What's that?
Edsel will know.
He knows everything. Yeah.
He's like a Dizzy superfan, isn't he?
Dizzy day.
He'll leave a comment on the video late in the week when he should be working. AED, not recognised name in the chat before. Hello to you, thanks for coming in. Mayhem in Monsterland, an actual Marvel of game. It's a fantastic looking game. That it was so late in the Commodore 64's life as well, which is because the technology was there to really show that system off to its best. Nath, what about you? Console Wars, first sort of experiences with that?
Well,
we're aware of it.
As you know, I live in the middle of nowhere, so most console wars pass me by, like most actual wars. So I don't think I knew about the NES until I was in high school, and that was like in the mid-90s. So yeah, I think the SNES was out by then. So I had a Master System growing up. That's how you pronounce it. And I think other people had Mega Drives. I don't think I knew anyone who had a SNES. I didn't know anyone who had a C64. They all had Spectrums because they were the best. I think it's only up until like the Dreamcast, I think, came out when it kind of hit home with console wars. Because even the Saturn, I remember somebody talking about Saturn, how good they were going to be. And I think they were the only person I knew to get a Saturn, and they never played it. They only played PlayStation. So it was just PlayStation and then 64 I knew about. And I ended up getting both of those. And I think when Xbox came out, I ended up getting an Xbox and a PlayStation 2. So I was already kind of in that thing about getting both consoles. But I suppose it's kind of what you were into at the time, because all of them had their features that kept them going. Nintendo always had something that was a little bit kind of different that put it to the forefront in some way. Like the N64 had 4 controller ports. It had, things like GoldenEye. I think that probably, to be fair, carried the system. Like the amount of time I spent playing like GoldenEye and Lilac Wars with a group of friends, and I don't think I could do that with the PlayStation. The PlayStation games I played were more kind of first person, so they had kind of pros and cons for both. As for which is better, like I said, I don't really know, but I was gutted that the Dreamcast didn't come to fruition because of the PlayStation 2. Because I loved the Dreamcast when it came out, and when the PlayStation 2 came out, it just blew out of the water. Like the games kind of dried up. They had quite a few of them in like Woolies, but after a while they just stopped stocking them in places like PlayStation 2, and they even had PlayStation 1 like well into like the PlayStation 2 when that was released. So yeah, it was just, I don't know. For me, I've always kind of had a little bit of both, but I've always liked Nintendo because it all did things a bit slightly different. Modern kind of consoles, there's always the PlayStation, the Xbox are always trying to do the same thing, and it's always down to the devs. I find it's always down to the games or the exclusives or something like that kind of sets them apart. And if they haven't got the games, then people are going to go to the console that does, which I think is why this whole thing has blown up with Microsoft, because buying a massive dev for like COD and all the other ones attached to it. I think Crash Bandicoot and Spyro were in that like Activision package as well. That's really kind of put people a bit on edge, but I don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to bottle it and let PlayStation have it, so there's no kind of retribution for Sega.
Yeah.
I was hoping they'd announce the Dreamcast 2 and make a comeback over where PlayStation on the ropes, but no.
That's it. Yeah, no, I was thinking very much the same thing yourself, really. Pete, just to round off this little section here, what about yourself?
Well, again, I can't remember who mentioned it, but we were just like in our village, everybody had Sega, and there was just one person with Nintendo. And I believe I mentioned it a few times, and nobody actually liked that kid. So, to me, the console wars were never really a big thing. It was just something you heard about, but in our little sort of community, everybody had Sega, and then everybody had PlayStation, apart from one guy who had an N64. It wasn't the same guy. So I don't know. It's something I've never really experienced. I only came into consoles at the sort of arse end of the Mega Drive's life. Before that, we had computers, and it was always Spectrums and Amigas, but nobody else had computers. So apart from when the PCs started rolling out, so it's like it's just never something that's ever really affected me. I've always thought, as somebody in my adult life, I've always thought that if you're financially able to own more than one console, then there's no point in not, because all you're doing is cheating yourself out of great games. I know people like to be outspoken against, those who don't like The Last of Us, for example, like to be properly outspoken against the Last of Us and things like that. Same with Breath of the Wild. When look at the global responses to these games, you're quite clearly wrong. But to me, it's like, say if you don't buy a Switch, then you're missing out on Breath of the Wild. It's an amazing game. If you don't buy a PlayStation, you're missing out on The Last of Us. It's an amazing game. So I don't know. I kind of feel like console wars as a concept from a consumer point of view is idiocy, really. If you can afford it all, then get it all, because then you're getting the best experience out of everything. Obviously, from a business standpoint, it's different because they're all fighting to compete and stay alive and stuff. Apart from Nintendo, who just do their own thing and don't give a shit. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it's never really affected me, the console wars, and I think to let it affect you is just lunacy. Just experience it, just enjoy everything and experience everything that you can, and don't be a dick about it. It's just my general consensus.
Yeah, I mean, Scott Sega Zombie agrees. The console wars died many years ago.
But the only real official console war was between Sega and Nintendo, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There wasn't much of a war when Sony came about because it just blew everything out of the water.
But then it was a war after that, wasn't it? Because you had the PlayStation, which came out of nowhere, and then you're sort of having the next generation after that. So you've got because Microsoft then came into it as well. So okay, by that point, Sega had dropped out when Microsoft came in, but there were still technically 2 or 3 of them in the market at the same time.
I think maybe the 360 and the PS3 was sort of a little bit of a skirmish, really, because that was like the era of Xbox Live, and that's where I mentioned it in the chat that Sony kind of biffed it a bit with the PlayStation 3 because Xbox 360 came around with Xbox Live, and it was such a good online service. It's never something that's interested me, but it was such a good online service and so accessible that PlayStation really lagged behind on that bit. But I just don't feel like there really has been. It's like when the new consoles launched this time, they all congratulated each other like on the launch. Like on Twitter, you get like Sony sending Microsoft a tweet saying congratulations on the launch of your new Xbox, and then sending it back, and then Nintendo saying congratulations to both of you. And I think it was the same when the PS4 and the Xbox One came out as well. There was like, I don't know, they're more like rivals than enemies, I think. But a lot of people like to see it as like a big war going on. I don't think it's really like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few comments in the chat about this. Raz says Sega never been big over there in Sweden, so he didn't really grow up with it. Got a Dreamcast though back then, but it couldn't really compete with the PlayStation or Nintendo. Sega Zombie says Sega and Nintendo was a true battle. Sony and Microsoft play it safe. Nintendo does their own thing. Eddie said there's no console wars. He also spends a lot of time wearing a tinfoil hat, I think. PlayStation is too good for anyone to come close.
Eddie, what's the next generation console that you own, Eddie?
Well, we wait for a response. 37 Retro said, I still can't believe Nintendo's online service is so far behind their competitors. But yes, it is its own space. Really, Scott Sega Zombie, the Switch is king. Generation Pixels, Sinclair, Sega, Sony, the holy trinity of gaming. Dylan, good evening, Dylan. In the old days, each system had its strengths and weaknesses. Though when the games on each system looked the same, it moved to exclusive, and that's where the battle was.
I'll fully admit that there were consoles that were better than the others, and they're not necessarily the consoles I like. I mean, it's like back in the day, I was super into the Mega Drive, but looking back, I can objectively say that the SNES was a better machine. And it's the same, like, I saw somebody mention the Dreamcast was the best 128-bit earlier in the chat.
Yeah, that was
clearly
AED, wasn't it?
Yeah, it clearly wasn't. It was, in terms of, like, on paper, it was the worst. The Xbox was the best, then the GameCube, then the PS2, then that. But it's more like what you like, isn't it? It's your preferences, not like people talk about what's the best and what's the worst and what's better than everything else. Unless it's like literally talking about what's best, it's just your preferences. It's not, people talk about it as if it's facts, and it's not. It's your preferences. I fully respect that people like the Dreamcast best because I love the Dreamcast. It probably is my sort of second favorite of the generation, but on paper it was the worst.
I think that having exclusive games does kind of set some consoles apart, and I think that's maybe why this thing has come out, because of the devs. Because for me, and this is going back to the original Xbox, Halo was the reason to have an Xbox. Really, having Halo and playing online with your friends, things like that, was the reason to have it. I played the new Halo the other night, actually, first time I played it on the new Xbox, and it just played exactly like COD. There just seemed to be no kind of difference to it, other than there were Spartans as their soldiers. And I think that's just the way everything's kind of going. There's just a lot of similarities. So unless a game comes out that is exclusive to one console or developer, then you're not going to have like that exclusivity that sets one console side to the other. And I think that's why Nintendo Switch, has that, because they have their own kind of things. They will always have their Marios, they will always have their like Zeldas and things like that, which other consoles can't do. I think that's kind of why they're still as popular, whereas PlayStation and Xbox, I don't think they have. Well, people will prove me wrong in the comments, and here, no doubt. But are there any games that are like exclusives individually to those systems that people can say, or any reason that somebody's bought one console over another, like a PlayStation over an Xbox? I don't know.
If you have a look on all the systems as well, the best-selling games are usually multi-platform.
Yeah,
that's because there's more of an audience, though, isn't it? It's like sort of more. Everyone's got a console, and if the game's out on all consoles, then more people will be able to have access to it. Really?
No, exclusively. Say for PlayStation 4, the best-selling game was GTA 4.
Oh right, yeah. I get you now. Yes, sir.
Comments rolling in at the moment. 37 Retro, one thing I missed is that games on the 8-bit computers might look and play completely differently. Now PC, Xbox and PlayStation 4 all basically look the same.
Well, see, I mean, back in 8-bit days, you could tell, just from the graphics, what system it were on.
Yeah,
you
look at the back of the box. You look at the back of the box, wouldn't you? And it would say screenshots may not represent the system. It may vary, and you always could tell that you were patently obvious not getting the Spectrum version. No matter how nice it looked, it was not the one you were going to be getting. Eddie says he didn't think a Series X is exactly next generation. I think that's a response to that. Dale says cross-platform multiplayer is now a thing now. Definitely means Mickey Mouse Soft and Sony actually are friends.
Sony were the last one to get on board with that, though, weren't they? It was like Microsoft and Nintendo made the whole big thing about Fortnite, being cross-play between them. And then they kind of offered it, to my understanding, to Sony, and Sony were like, no. And it took them a while to actually come on board, which is probably why Microsoft and Nintendo have got this great friendship now, and Sony are kind of behind in that.
Martin says, if objectively the SNES is better than the Mega Drive, is that partly because Nintendo had a couple of extra years to work on it?
That's exactly it. That's what I was saying. The sort of ones that come out first tend to be on paper the worst consoles, but if you think it's up to you. If you like it better, that's fine, but it's not the best sort of thing.
Cut the comments about the Dreamcast. AD said the Dreamcast was ahead of its time.
Again, though, it was preceded by other consoles that were technically better. I mean, I know Dreamcast had a lot of things like the picture quality and stuff like that were better, but the controllers were better on the newer systems and stuff like that. They ran faster, they ran on better mediums and stuff like that. That's all I was saying. I'm not saying the Dreamcast is shit by any stretch, but
I don't think anyone thinks you are. It is things that it had like the first modem though in a console, which PlayStation 2 tried to do, but never.
They had an external modem on the PlayStation,
Yeah, exactly, but that never took off. So the thing is, the Dreamcast was kind of ahead of its time, but again, I think that I think Scott said it, the game format wasn't as good, and I don't think the developers kind of got behind it, so they stopped games and they just released it on other consoles. I guess it was just easier to release on some of the other consoles. That's what killed it. But it was a shame. It is a shame when that kind of happens.
Eddie says that the preferences people have is what fuels the console wars, especially with modern platforms like YouTube, where people can talk easily about what they love. I did put Scott's comment up there, just respond to Pete saying he also said the Dreamcast was ahead of its time. Peter just answered that. Some more comments below. Dylan loves the PlayStation 2, but the games look better on the Dreamcast. The VGA output of the Dreamcast was genius move. PlayStation 2 games have a muddy look to them, if you ask me.
Non-component component, it looks amazing.
Sean might be happy with that. You better sleep with your doors locked, Dylan.
Raz says, I don't really give any time for gens that have aged like shit. But sadly, 5th and 6th gen are a lot like that. Sega Zombie says PlayStation first-party games exclusive over the last 2 generations have smashed Microsoft. This is why they're buying all these studios and publishers up. Generation Pixel
agree with that.
Oh, go on. Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree with that because going back to, I think it was Peter who mentioned it earlier. It's about preference, and with the last generation, I had a PS4, and I'm not interested in Spider-Man. I'm not into superhero games. The Last of Us, I played it. I wasn't overly fussed with it. I prefer shooters, and I love Gears of War and Halo. So for me personally, an Xbox is always going to be a preference for me. That's not to say that the games on the PS4 are shit, but for me personally, I think the exclusives on the Xbox were better. But I say that's just a preference thing.
Well, it boils down to personal preference at the end of the day.
Yeah, it does. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
You know, you can, you know, if you've been, as some people do, all the way through by a certain system, you follow a certain brand, then you know you are going to favour that probably more than the other one. But it comes down to personal preference. I'm not going to say Scott's going to. He's not going to. I was going to say Scott's going to put a picture up in his shop and not going to serve you when you go in there. God, so you were going to say, Alex. Sorry, you were going to.
I'll have to have a shave and wear a wig, won't I?
Wig.
I think I've lost my train of thought now.
Do you not know we do tangents?
I know, bloody hell. Oh yeah, there we go. So with like Forza and Gran Turismo are always going to get amazing scores across the board from people. I hate racing games. Absolutely hate them. Cannot stand them. So for me, they're not going to appeal, no matter how many amazing reviews they're going to get. And that goes with all the other games, like Last of Us, which, didn't really appeal to me. And I thought that Uncharted 4 was weak compared to the other ones. I thought 3 and 2 was better. But
can we kick Griff off the chat?
Admin can't mute, I guess, though, can they? No.
I thought it was just more of the same, dragged out. I thought it was very.
But it's personal preference, Alex.
Yeah, personal preference is fine. I read a review of Uncharted 4 which says the only negative aspect of this game is the fact that it ends, and I fully agree with that game, with that right up.
Where we go? Scott says
not a bad game.
Scott said Sega design the Xbox pad. I think it's very decent to admit that.
Which one? That one or the thin one?
Very brave as well. Dreamcast controller is the only thing that lets the console down. It's not a great one. I must be honest.
It's not a terrible one though. It's not like the N64.
No, it's not like the N64. But I'm not going to get into
it. N64 is awesome. Shut up.
Yeah. Scott's still losing the Sega Wonderworld. You like the new Mega Drive controller made by Nintendo? Goodness me. That's good. Dale's off, so we'll see you again soon. Dale, take care, mate. All the best to you. Dylan, about people like those control games.
I think that was in regards to the component cable that I was on about.
I'm trying to keep up. A lot of people. God of War, Spider-Man, Last of Us, Uncharted compared to shooters only on Xbox.
See, I saw that, and I'm going to jump to Griffo's defense here because you can say that about it's only shooters on the Xbox, but if you look at the PlayStation exclusive, it's just all third-person action adventures. Yeah,
they are all same, yeah.
Yeah, which is fine because that's my favorite type of game, but it goes both ways. I'm the Switzerland in this conflict.
Well, Scott has taken my advice, Alex, unfortunately. You're on the dartboard in the shop on Tuesday. If you want to go down, I believe it's £1 for 3 darts. So hop along and have a look.
Bargain.
You can't miss that far, right?
James at Retro and Import Gamer UK. For me, the Dreamcast failed due to the dominance of the PlayStation in the previous generation, and the history of Sega failing with the Mega CD and the 32X. It's probably. I think there's a little bit in that, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
That's a good point.
I think so. Wii U had a great exclusives, but it didn't help sell the system.
I think that's a great point, and they're exactly the same on the Switch, which is selling. So it's not always the games that.
Yeah,
in regards to that, I hated the controller for the Wii U to the point where I exclusively use the.
There's nothing wrong with it.
Pro controller.
Perfectly fine.
The only one I really played it for because I didn't have a choice was Zombie U, and I found myself staring down at the controller more than I was actually looking at the TV. And it just, I thought it was counterintuitive. Really,
play Pikmin 3. It was great.
I don't want to play Pikmin.
Shut up. There was loads of good games actually that used that. That was just one of them. Some had like an exclusive thing that was just on the. It was on the screen and the controller, so I can get where you come from.
This though is an awesome controller.
That is good.
Can you just show us again, Pete? What's that? The Wii U.
The Pro controller is very dusty because it's Wii U, isn't it? But but it is a really good controller.
The battery life on that is like forever.
Oh yeah, it's probably still going from my first charge.
You can bury that in the garden, and 100 years it'll still be fine.
Dylan says only a handful of PlayStation 2 games outputting 480p. On the Dreamcast, it was pretty much a standard. Loves both consoles, but the Dreamcast definitely had a crisper image. Eddie wants to know who invited Griffo.
I think he did.
It's his subject of the week. We've been talking about this for 45 minutes. This is good. We've got everybody talking about it. Raz says first-person shooter is good when brain doesn't need to be used, which is I'm surprised.
Rasmus.
Yeah.
There's tactics involved,
He's also one of these people.
They had the little mints in a plastic box.
Have you always found that the people who tell you to eat fish, they say it's good for the brain? And you think, well, why are you telling me something like that? What are you implying? Or are you implying you're a bit thick, so you eat a lot of fish? I don't know. That seems to be the.
I don't eat any more fish.
Oh dear, this is another tangent. The Dreamcast pad is like holding a dinner plate to play your games.
Do you reckon Mensa have like a Fish Friday?
Mensa?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Must do.
An Eat Fish Friday on behalf of Mensa. Yeah.
Good for their brains.
Yeah, could be.
They brain train them.
The Hobby Lodge is here. Good evening to you. Nice to see you back here. The Wii U had a great Pro controller. We just seen Pete show that off. That was, I haven't got one of those. I like the pad. But I'm a funny bugger at the best of times. Susie said she's presides at Bethesda. How do you pronounce that? Hasn't retrofitted Skyrim. See, Alex, I've learned Skyrim, not Skyrim. Skyrim for every single retro console ever, rather than bringing out a new bastard Elder Scroll games.
She's very bitter about that.
Oh, she is, isn't she?
She really is. She's just picked up the anniversary edition of Skyrim, and it's the 5th copy of Skyrim that we own. And she doesn't play many games. It's all Dragon Age and Elder Scrolls mainly, but she just chomping at the bit for a new Elder Scrolls. It's been 10 years since Skyrim came out, and it's crazy.
It is.
Ross says the Wii U is definitely the best way to control Pikmin.
Thank you.
Our resident expert agrees. James says the Wii U tablet is a great controller. Also, somebody else said that as well. Eddie says, it's surprisingly comfortable. It is surprisingly comfortable. It shouldn't be.
When my nephews were little, they used to give them... They used to let them play on the Xbox, and they'd have the big Duke controllers, and they'd basically place it flat on the floor and use it like a keyboard because it was too big to get their hand around. And while I was playing the Wii U with this tablet, that's what I felt like I was doing. I felt like what they must have felt like.
You want the ASCII one for the GameCube? That's awesome. Full keyboard.
I'll tell you.
Full keypad.
Oh yeah, the big long thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do actually want that. That's amazing, but it's probably expensive.
Eddie says PS4 controller is the best controller ever made.
No.
A question here for Griffo. Are you the bloke who used to do a teletext page?
Is that the bamboozle guy?
That was Biffo, was it? Was it Biffo, not Griffo? Wasn't it Mr.
Biffo in Biz, wasn't it? Biz.
Yeah, Mr. Biffo.
Mr. Biffo was a guy. Hasn't he got his own YouTube channel or something?
Yeah. Wrong stream.
That's when we had that one.
Yeah.
I feel like Sean.
You feel like what?
I feel like Sean not getting the jokes.
To be honest with you, it's probably it may be a little bit before your time, that one. I don't know. Question for the panel: what is your favourite ever controller? Oh, hang on, so Pete's rummaging in the background just in case you're wondering what's going on.
Looking for my favourite ever controller.
I thought
or Saturn, depending on if you want a thumbstick.
I thought it might have been Susie's dad going through the skip again, but it's not, is it? Pete's just trying to find a controller. What have we got here?
That's my favourite ever controller.
No,
Look at the state of that.
Yeah.
Now it is, isn't it?
What even is that?
That's a Jaguar controller.
For those who are not watching and listening.
It's awful.
What I love about it as well is that the buttons, instead of ABC, it's CBA, and I just read that as can't be asked.
Can't be asked.
I mean, favourite controller for me, if I was playing 8 or 16-bit computer games, it'd be the Zip Stick. If I was playing, probably the original Mega Drive pad or the PlayStation controller, one of those. Alex?
360 controller, but at the minute it's the Switch Pro. Great controller.
That is a good controller.
Really comfortable. It is the comfort thing with me as well. The PS4 one, my hands started to ache after a bit, but I never got that with the Pro controller or the 360.
Sean?
8-bit, I'd say it's Koenig Speed-King joystick.
God, not that.
It's lovely.
Terrible. What a stupid idea for a controller.
No, it's
No. I'm going to devote an entire podcast to how terrible that controller is at some point.
What's it called? I'm going to Google it.
Koenig's Speed King.
Konix is spelled Konix, just so you,
All right.
you don't get something else.
It's lovely. It fits nicely in your hand. 2 fire buttons underneath. Little micro switch joystick on top.
Oh.
Yeah, I see. There you go. That's the sound. That's the sound of agreement.
Not all about looks, Griffith. Oh, it's how it plays.
Hang on. Let me just put Alex on screen so people know what we're talking about. It showed up. Go and look it on the internet, everybody. The Konix Speed King controller.
Yeah.
Did you also like the Bart Simpson one, Sean?
Sorry?
Did you like the Bart Simpson one as well? The Bart Simpson joy.
Oh, I don't think Alien one was better.
I've got a Simpsons PS2 pad controller.
Really?
Yeah.
No, that existed. I'm googling now.
Yeah, it's only like a third-party cheap thing, but yeah, I've got one of them.
I've got the SpongeBob and Patrick ones, and apparently they're worth something now. Well, they're worth something if the box, not worth so many used.
Does anyone remember the bug, which was like a joystick?
Sean's got one.
I've got one. Yeah.
Have you? Was
little
that
green
for the
thing
Amiga?
with 2 red fire buttons for eyes, and then little
Was that the
micro switch
Amiga?
joystick on top.
Probably
Was that
worked
for
for the
the
Amiga.
Yeah, it'd work on Amiga. Yeah.
I'm sure we have it. Yeah, for that. Yeah, that's retro.
We just had tons of zip sticks because we kept breaking and playing aquatic games.
Zip sticks, cruisers. They were
good
as well.
They were. I used to go through quite a few as well. You got a favourite controller, Nath?
Yeah. I think the N64 is friggin' awesome. I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. And I think the Saturn is.
I'll take that
really
challenge.
Good,
I'll take that challenge.
The only reason he likes it is because people in Norfolk are born with 3 arms.
True.
No, you hold it in the middle and then your right hand on the right side. You just don't understand.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But what's the point of the left bit then?
Well, that's for if you want map stuff most of the time. There's only a few games that use it. Dylan will tell you what they are. I don't know.
I'd played like Fighters Destiny and stuff on the N64, and fighting games are always better with a D-pad, so I'll let that one go. But
It was
I don't understand why they couldn't have just put the stick on the same side as the D-pad.
because then it wouldn't be as awesome as it is.
Right, just going to go through what people can post, and then we'll get back to the second half of that conversation. Biggest mistake Nintendo did with the Wii U was not being able to see. Not being able to use the DS, 3DS games and use both screens, TV and tablet, says Raz. Gordon agrees, says Zombie U is brilliant. was a good game, that wasn't it? Zombie U. DS games on the Wii U would have been sick, says Eddie. There is a 6-button Jaguar pad too as well.
That's now on his Grail list.
Yep.
No.
Raz says favourite controller is a toy, spelt T-I-G-H. Between Wavebird and Switch Pro controller.
The Wavebird is really good.
Horatio Van Basten Sean says Saturn pad takes some beating. It's a good pad, that one. I agree. Model 2 Sega Saturn pad is still the king, says 37.
Yeah, I fully agree with that.
And the Model 2, because there's 2 models, obviously.
And James at Retro and Importer Gamer UK says DS and 3DS games would have been fantastic if Nintendo had made them compatible on the Wii U. I never thought about that, but now you're saying that, it makes an awful lot of sense, really.
The only problem with that is a lot of them, like, you had to be able to see both screens at once, and it's kind of hard when you got one in your lap and one in front of you on the TV.
You could play like that.
I'm tired with your arms, Gate. Though it's not a light piece of kit.
Well, you could build some sort of suspension device so you could sort of have it hanging next to your television or something
like Tom Cruise from Mission Impossible.
That's it, yeah. Well, that was 1996 when it Mission Impossible. What year are we talking for the Wii U? 2000 and what? 10, 11, 15?
Yeah, they could have mass-produced them by that.
You're saying they've been lying to us all these years?
I think it's a good thing they didn't have DS and 3DS on it, because then it just lost more money. Or it would have been about an N64 add-on kind of thing that nobody has.
True.
Oh, the DD.
Yeah. It would be like that. Nobody has it. Except quite.
Yeah.
Okay. Getting back to the console wars thing. Obviously, the news we had this week was obviously Microsoft buying, spending a lot of money, and it immediately set a panic off amongst one of the people on the channel. He was immediately wondering what's going to happen to his diet of cod. Would he be able to play that again? I just want to know what people's thoughts and opinions on this are, because it's quite a topical thing. And Alex, I know when you heard the news, you wanted to change the subject. So I mean, from your point of view, does this change anything dramatically, or are we going to see a shift in pattern in the future, or is this going to basically mean that Microsoft have got $70 billion less than everybody else? Is it going to make any difference?
I'm going to cop out here and say I have no idea,
but if you thought about it, your immediate reaction was when you heard that news. What was it? Oh crap! Or good? Was it good news or bad news, or was it you just like indifferent to it? Or
I was a bit indifferent, but as a Xbox gamer, because I've got the Series X this generation, it's I suppose good news to me. But if it does go that way, there's no saying that it will. But it's certainly made them more competitive in the gaming and exclusive games sort of market there. But yeah, I really don't know, because I think a lot of it is about selling the Game Pass with Microsoft, and to do that, they've got to be able to put on games that people are going to want to play. But part of me is saying as well that they may go exclusive with them, because if people don't buy an Xbox, they'll probably have a PC, or will just think, sod it, I'll get a PC. And they're still going to get the Game Pass money that way anyway. So for exclusives as well, I was thinking, everyone always goes on about exclusives and now it'll kill them and people don't buy systems for exclusives and stuff like that. I bought a Switch because I wanted to play Zelda and some of the Mario games, so it does work. It does work. And the only way to play them, barring doing it illegally on a PC, is to buy a Switch.
Okay.
You can't play on any other system. So yeah, who knows? It's kind of exciting. Maybe not for Sean, but we'll see how it goes.
What about you, Nath? Any thoughts on that at all?
What was the question? I stepped out for a minute.
Sorry, mate. I thought you stepped out after I asked the question. It's all right. My questions tend to ask a lot longer than the answers do. The question being, when the news of Microsoft this week spending all that money, what was your first reaction to it when you heard what they were doing? Do you think it's going to change the landscape at all in any way?
I don't, because I think that they've come out and said that they're not going to have exclusivity over it. They're still going to allow Sony to have the games. And I think that's kind of how things have kind of changed over the years, because back in, a few years ago, in like the late 90s, if somebody bought a developer and got all their games, that would be exclusive to that console. Whereas now, I think it is more about copies sold, whether on PlayStation or on Xbox. It doesn't really matter. I was all kind of like fishing for things, saying like, or teasing people, saying, yeah, down with Sony. This is going to be the end for them. They'll lose all their games. They've lost Crash. Like, how can Sony lose Crash after all these years? That's their mascot and that. But truth be told, I don't think it's going to make too much difference. It's just who gets the kind of money from the games, isn't it? And if Xbox have that developer now, they'll be getting money from Sony for every sale that they make on that game on the PlayStation. But that's kind of the way it goes. I think unless you've got exclusivity like you have on the Switch, you're not going to have that difference. But I think that's probably where Nintendo still have things right, to have their own kind of games that no one can copy. Like, for all that they are, I mean, a lot of people think it was kind of childish games and that, but there are some really kind of good ones on there, some good JRPGs, and like, hidden gems that people just don't know about. But it is more, about kind of Sony versus Xbox, and Nintendo just do their own thing and just kind of get away with it.
Yeah.
I was just saying then, Nath, about I got a Switch just so I could play Zelda Breath of the Wild and a few other games. So in that respect, having exclusive games does work, because obviously it worked on me. And I suppose a lot of other people as well. That's if you're not going down the route of having a PC and, copying them or whatever.
No, I mean, there's nothing on PlayStation and Xbox that interests me at the moment. I used to really enjoy playing Halo. I used to enjoy really playing Final Fantasy on those consoles. Halo is now just very generic. It's not what it used to be. Final Fantasy, yes, I'm missing out on, but it's not the same games as I remember. And there's some great JRPGs that are on Switch, like, Xenoblade. That's one of them. I might pick out off some heads, like YS or YS. Shin Megami Tensei, got all kind of games like that. So it's kind of what you want it for, isn't it? And you'll always have people on both sides saying, oh, mine is better between PlayStation and Xbox. But at the end of the day, I don't see really anything between the two. Although the pad is really good on the PlayStation. I do, I have played on a PS5 and, it was really good. But it's kind of what you want it for.
The PS5 pad is space age. It's amazing.
It is really good, yeah. I agree with that.
A couple of comments in the chat before we come to Sean and Pete. The Switch has passed the Wii and the PlayStation 1 a few weeks ago. Did you guys see this coming?
Absolutely, Raz. Miles away.
It's an amazing machine. It is my favorite Nintendo console of all time.
Yeah,
it's just a really, really good little machine.
Raz also says that his dream is that Nintendo buys Konami and maybe break the lot of the IPs.
Nintendo should buy Sega.
That would be the ultimate, wouldn't it? Yeah. Well, that would be the ultimate. Ross has just put Hot Wheels beat that back on and noticed it's an Activision game and Microsoft have wasted their money. It's not very good on this. 37 Retro would love for Konami to do a new Parodius for the Switch.
Yeah.
Retro Claire says you can see it becoming 2-tier with games available on both systems but extra features on Xbox.
That's interesting, actually, because what Sony was saying when Microsoft did bid for Activision, and obviously they're going to win. Sony had already got an exclusivity deal for extra content from the Call of Duty games, and that goes on for a few years yet. So Sony was saying that Microsoft really had to honor that and keep bringing out the the COD games at least on the PlayStation, because they've already got this kind of deal doing that. So it's already something that happens, but it's kind of going the wrong way towards how it should be.
Eddie said if anybody's buying Konami, it'll be Sony, which Ian agrees with. And Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid wouldn't fit a low-powered Nintendo console. Although Scott says Sony have no money though. They must have some somewhere. They checked me on a sofa. It's always a few quid down the back of it to do with it. I mean, my first thought when I heard this was, I was completely indifferent to it. I thought, is it going to make any difference whatsoever? And you know, I try to think about, because Activision is a game I remember from years and years ago. Is this the same Activision as it was back then, or is this just a spawn of the original Activision? I don't know.
You'll want all the old Tony Hawk games back, won't you?
No, I keep them. No, please keep those, because they are. I was thrilled. I was thrilled they were going to Xbox. I think that's good. Xbox is great, because I'll never buy an Xbox ever again. Stop polluting the consoles I've got. But, when I think of Activision, I think of the 2600 and what evolved from there.
Yeah.
And I remember Activision doing, arcade conversions for Sega in the late 1980s, games like Afterburner, which they were terrible. Well, they weren't terrible, but they weren't great. And they had a rotten run of games based on films as well, which went to the home system. So, and then I then, for years, I completely forgot about Activision existing until Call of Duty. The Modern Warfare game on PlayStation 3, when that came out. I thought, is this the same Activision, or is it just a name that's been bought around? Like Atari, it's just a name. It's not the same company as it was before. I don't care who's churning out these newfangled 2600s or whatever, but it's not Atari. It's not the same company. So I don't know. I mean, I think about it like everything else. It doesn't really affect me in any way, great shape or form. So I was completely indifferent to it. I didn't immediately think that's the end of the PlayStation, or Xbox is just going to be the main player in the market. It just didn't really register. I thought, okay, well, they want to waste their money on things like that, then let them do so. But having watched, somebody said I watched a documentary the last week or so on the history of Xbox from generation to where we are now, and they bought so many different studios over the years, but it's not really made any difference. If you go back, say, 2015, the launch of one of the consoles, I can't remember which one it was now, because I don't play on Xbox so much now. But they bought a lot of studios, and they kept acquiring these small developers and indie developers, and it hasn't really made any difference. It's not as if it's cut Sony out of the market altogether. So, yeah, this is probably a bigger studio, but are they going to want to halve their revenue by saying no, we're not going to put it on PlayStation? I don't think so.
No, I thought so.
What do you think? What do you think, Sean? Because you haven't had a go at this one yet. So,
I mean, let's face it. They haven't spent £68 billion just for fun of it. They're a business, and they're going to want that back. Plus, so it's. I don't think we're going to see anything change dramatically in the short term. Like Pete says, there's some kind of agreement in there with the exclusivity with COD and that. But that's going to run out, and like Claire says, I can see things being added in COD, which an Xbox exclusive, be it, weapon packs, stuff like that. I can even see in time, perhaps, like the Rebirth map, which is like a mini version of the Warzone, being an exclusive. You want to play that, which I think probably is more popular than the main map at the moment. You'll probably have to get an Xbox. Like I said, they're a business. They've only got one thing on mind, and that's money. And they are going to implement things to rake that money back and more. And that's what I think anyway. To me, it'd be a bit daft if they didn't have any plans to get any of that back. It's concerning, I suppose, for myself being a COD player because of what I've just said. But to be honest, if COD is the only option, say in a few years' time, and everything's becoming Xbox exclusive, I'll happily buy an Xbox.
It's not going to change your
switch
habits.
allegiance.
Yeah.
You could get a PC.
That's true. That's true. You
Yeah,
think, PC as well. Yeah.
I think that's one of the major things in it. Like I said earlier, with Game Pass, you don't get an Xbox, get a PC.
Yeah.
No matter to them, they're still going to get the however much it is.
But excuse me, there's 100 million players worldwide on COD. Now, let's say, for example, you divide that by 3 Xbox, PC, and PlayStation. 33%. That's a lot to lose. So I really don't think Microsoft are gonna, make COD completely exclusive. Like I said, I'll go back to it. What Claire said. I think they'll add certain things in the game which are exclusive to Xbox. What will Sony do about that? I'm not overly sure. Already there's rumours that they're on about buying out Electronic Arts. Electronic Arts on Medal of Honor.
Oh, God.
But I don't know. It'd be nice to see a Medal of Honor Warzone type of game, but I think
it's not just Medal of Honor, though, is it, as well? They've got Battlefield as well, which is far higher than Medal of Honor.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think EA is probably far too big a company for Sony to acquire at the minute.
Yeah.
Well, they've got that money for it. They wouldn't afford something like that, would they? You're not just EA; it's everything that comes with it, all the sports licenses as well, don't they? FIFA, Madden, the PGA license.
If they could get an exclusivity thing just with EA Sports alone, it would be tremendous.
Well, it depends. I read somebody sort of was mentioning about the fact that it depends what happens next time FIFA want to negotiate the license with EA, whether they go with EA or whether they go somewhere else. So I don't know. Before I come to you, Pete, just your opinion very quick. Just catch up with some of these comments, mate, and I'll come to you for your thoughts on that one. Ian, couldn't you imagine Silent Hill on a Nintendo? Well, there is a Wii version of Silent Hill.
And it's one of the best ones.
Yeah. There we go, Ian. You'll enjoy that, mate. Go and track that one down. It'll cost you a few quid, mine, but you should probably be
more expensive on the PS2.
Yeah, it's only 35 on the Wii.
Only 35.
That's a lot of bears.
Yeah.
I just remembered. Yeah.
That's 70 games to some of us, that is. Paul Retro Bates says I'd take Silent Hill on anything at the moment. Eddie says Activision was always best in 2600. That goes back to what I was talking about a short while ago.
Isn't Silent Hill on the Amico or announced on the Amico?
I'm not sure.
Would he take that? Would he take that?
I think that might be coming. I think that might be coming out on the Amico Pro.
Oh.
Sega Zombie says Konami don't give a shite about their IP. There is no one left in the company that cares for games anymore. All they care about is the gambling.
Haven't they brought Kojima back though? Hideo Kojima. He's back on board with them, isn't he?
I don't know.
I'm sure he's supposed to be back on board with them, and he's back doing his Silent Hill game with Norman Reedus. So there's at least one gamer, a game enthusiast in Konami. Well, not in Konami, but he's sort of on the same page with them again.
The only way Xbox could deliver a KO is if they take over Konami, Squaresoft, and Capcom. And then Scott says they've got no money to do that. This obviously just spend 70 billion. No one's got any money left then. So if Microsoft are all spent up and Sony haven't got any money left.
I
think Bill Gates could.
Microsoft been spent up.
Yeah, Bill Gates on his own could probably buy all those.
Yeah.
He's too pushy putting chips in your vaccines. Don't worry about that.
He's Kelly's Island.
Susie says Microsoft are being coy on exclusivity. They honoured the PlayStation 5 exclusivity when they bought Bethesda. They said that new IPs would be exclusive, but that existing IPs would be decided near a release. There's an awful lot. There's a lot of people with a lot of knowledge on these things.
It makes a lot more financial sense for them to bring it out on every console. I know it's like they like to be able to keep things away from the rivals, but when you're looking at sort of, it costs pence to print a disc and put it in a box and ship it to a shop. So once the money's like paid for the development of the console, they could then easily just stick it on a Blu-ray, put it in a PlayStation box, sell it on a PlayStation, and get commission from that. Fair enough, Sony will make a bit of money on it as well, but it would be more money in their pockets. But there's just the whole like thing of keeping it away from your rivals, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. There's some fascinating stuff in the comments as well here as well about the EA stuff as well. Eddie just mentioned I think Xbox would do likely to give Xbox players a 3 to 6 month head start on the new Call of Duties.
Yeah, they will.
Which probably would make sense. Eddie says they've lost the FIFA license.
Yeah.
Danester, hello
Did
mate.
not know
Hello, Dana.
Says EA owning FIFA will be a bigger pull over Xbox than Activision COD. And then we've got this little bit of a debate here about EA and FIFA. Scott says they've lost the FIFA license. Ian says the license is running out. And Danester says they haven't gone anywhere else yet. And then EA have registered a football game called EA Soccer. So that's interesting.
Just going on that last point, actually, and one for Sean. If the COD games were to be exclusive to Xbox, do you think that Sony might do something with their studios to create a similar type of game?
Yeah, possibly. Because a lot of money to be made out of them.
Yeah.
Battle Royale type of games are, obviously they're really popular.
Tour of Duty. Very, 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 very sort of typical. Yeah, Todd. Go on. So Pete, your thoughts on when you heard this news earlier in the week?
To me, the last Activision franchise I gave a shit about was Guitar Hero, and that's been dead a long time. So I don't know. As far as my own personal thoughts on how it's going to affect me as a gamer is, it's probably not. If anything, if they bring the Activision games onto Game Pass, then I'm more likely to actually try them out. I used to have a bit of a thing with one of my friends where he'd buy the COD games and immediately lend it to me for a night to play the campaign, and I'd say play through the campaign in one sitting and give it him back the next day. So I'd be more likely to play the COD campaigns again, because I rag on COD a lot. I think it's crap, but I'm not going to deny it. The campaigns are really good for what they are. So it will put me back on board with playing these games that I wouldn't ordinarily pay money for. So that's probably the only way it's going to affect me, is that I might be more likely to actually try Activision games out. But it's a blow for Sony, it really is. But I don't think it's a console-ending blow, because, I mean, look how they completely messed up with the PS3, really, in terms of, the console wars. They were a clear loser in that generation, but they came back from it, and there were a lot more problems in that than somebody buying up a publisher. So I don't think it's really anything too big to worry about. I think there's always going to be people like me who prefer single-player, story-driven games with more depth and stuff over multiplayer shooters. So I think there's always going to be people like me who will favour the PlayStation for the games that they bring out, the Horizons, the Last of Us, the Uncharted, even the Killzones. If they brought out another Killzone, I'd probably have a crack at that. The last two were shit, but I'd probably still have a crack at it. So yeah, I just think there's always going to be people like me who will still favour that kind of thing. So I don't think it's going to affect it that much. There was another point I was going to make. Oh yeah, the big thing about it was the fact that they've been, up to this point, Microsoft have been buying developers, and Activision's obviously a big publisher. So, like a case in point, they bought Don't Nod Entertainment, who were the developers behind Life is Strange, and when Don't Nod moved over to Microsoft, Square Enix owned the rights to Life is Strange, so they just carried on making Life is Strange games on the PlayStation. So it's like buying a publisher, they take all those rights for the game series with them as well, which is kind of a more hefty blow, really. But there's been people saying it's a dick move that Microsoft had done. I don't think it is. I think it's just business. I think that what they've done is a shrewd business move, and it's hats off to them. Fully applaud it. If I had the money and I was in that situation, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Scott mentions Sony didn't lose against the 360, and the generation of console sales were pretty even.
They were very even at the
I
end,
think-
but it was still. I think Nintendo actually won out with the Wii, but it was still like Wii, Xbox, Sony. But it was very even towards the end.
There we go. The PlayStation 3 outsold 360. So
Did it really?
yeah.
It's massive in Japan, though, isn't it? Obviously.
Yeah. Red 7 says PS3 was more popular in Asia than the Xbox.
Yeah.
Sure. Tainter said they may have made more 360s, and because they only ones. If I can watch that documentary, that was quite something when they all started failing. The old red ring of death.
No, you just need to wrap it up in a towel and like leave it on for 3 days, and it'll sort itself out.
Saying that though, in that generation, I've had one Xbox 360 fail and I've had one PS3 fail, so it's 50-50 for me.
Yellow light
first release because
it wasn't a yellow light for me. It stopped reading discs for a bit, so I put it in the bedroom as like a Netflix player, and then it stopped playing Netflix too, so I just ended up bidding it. So.
What are you going to say, Alex? So you agree with that?
No, I had the yellow light of death with the PlayStation 3, and I had a red ring of death.
Yeah, my original PlayStation had the yellow light eventually. It was a long time after I've been using it, but it did get a fair amount of usage on that one. Anybody want to add anything else before we wrap that up for this evening? No one ever says yes. 100% success rate with the answer to that question. Just while Danes is here as well, I just want to quick mention Hidden Chest Gaming, which is his shop, which is opening in Brierley Hill this coming Saturday, 29th of January, Unit A, Wedgbury Way, Brierley Hill, up here in the West Midlands. Opening from 12 o'clock this Saturday. Also, we've mentioned Scott Sega Zombies in here as well. His Retro Realm has opened up in Ipswich as well. I don't have the address of that, unfortunately, in front of me, Scott, but we wish you all the very best with that, and you and Dane as well. Hope everything turns out to be really successful for those independent retailers. If you are in the Ipswich or the West Midlands area, do get down to those stores and check them out as well. I know Al's been advertising non-stop 24 hours a day, I think, on every video he does anyway. But if you haven't heard about that, do go and check those out and show the lads you some support. It's a very brave decision at the moment to start a brand new business in this current climate. So we wish everybody the success for that, and we hope all the gamers get behind you as well. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time this evening. It's been a fascinating chat as always, and nice to have our special guest on, Alex, Griffo's Retro Gaming. If you've not been across to Alex's channel, and check him out. Thank you again, Alex. It's a very interesting subject, and one I know that will spark the debate long after we finish talking about it. But thank you very much indeed for coming on.
No, thanks for having me, and good to see you all again. Hopefully see Sean in Leeds.
In Leeds on 5th,
in Doncaster.
Ah, yeah, Doncaster. What's the date for that one? You know?
I think that's end of Feb or early March.
Don't think there's as many people going to that.
No, I'm not going to be going.
No, not me.
I think a lot of people think it's a bit too early.
Maybe it is actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only December, the last one.
Yeah.
Quick hello to Gamester Dad, who's come in as well. Nice to see you. Thanks to loads of people in the chat again tonight. A really nice high number of viewers as well, and some great comments, great debate points made. I've certainly learnt a few things from what people have mentioned tonight as well. That's always the part of these shows as well. Now, Sean, Pete, thank you very much as always for giving up your time and coming on. And we will chat to you again very, very soon. I'll just drop everybody backstage, and I'll catch you all in a moment, folks. So just give me 1 second.
Cheers up.
Oh. Press the remove button, they'll disappear. Don't press the remove button, they come back again. Right, there you go. So hope that's sparked some debate, have some conversation about it. Lots of people talking in the chat. Brilliant to see everybody here again on the Sunday evening, getting a bit regular now every couple of weeks. Speaking of that, we're back in 2 weeks' time, which will be the 6th of February at 8 o'clock on this very channel. Don't forget to come along and tune in. Not sure what we're doing yet. That's always a surprise, isn't it? Usually we have this planned, but not this time. So that could be an interesting show in a couple of weeks' time. There'll be show number 48 of the tNb Gaming Podcast, getting close to the magic 50. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. But yeah, if you have watched this live with us, thanks very much indeed this evening. Thanks for all the comments. If you are listening to this back, hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Don't forget to support the tNb guys as well in the other videos on the channel. But that's it. Yeah, so I shall sign out and say thanks very much indeed for your time. This is the Retro Bear saying toodaloo for now, and we'll talk to you again very soon. But until then, take care.